send out an army to find you in the middle of the darkest night. It's true, I will rescue.
All right. I'm going to give you guys a little jewel. You guys ready for a diamond, a jewel this morning? Are you ready? I'm going to tell you where to find what you call yourself as a state national and how you can prove it to yourself. Can you drop that music? Yeah. Y'all ready for this little jewel? It's one place where the government tells you how you write down what you are as a state national. So those that think that this is stuff made up, this is the easiest, most basic place that you can look. And it actually calls it, from the government, it calls it nationality. A nation state. And it tells you how to write down in writing what you are as your vessel. Now, as a people, you lay your head in the republic or on the land of the republic. But as a vessel, which your passport is issued to your vessel, not you, under their code, statutes, and ordinances, they tell you what your nationality is. Write this down. This is very important. It's called the G as in George, P as in Paul, O as in oval. Styles Manual. It's the Government Printing Office Styles Manual. I have a certified copy posted on the channel. Styles Manual. And on page 95, about halfway down the page, it tells you how to write down your nationality. And I am a Pennsylvanian. And David and Bonnie, they are Texans under their code, statutes, and ordinances. But as a people in the Republic, they are Texians. So there's two different designations. There's one as the state national, your vessel, what your vessel's called. And then there's de jure, which is as a man or a woman. So if you want proof of the nationality or the nation states still exist, because they do still exist, go to that Government Printing Office Styles Manual, page 95, and you can see it. That's the easiest, simplest way. Let's give David a round. Is he did all right? I got 2 days. Are you getting, does it feel good? Yeah. All right. Thank you all for being here.
Absolutely the best group of domestic terrorists I've ever seen.
And the biggest financial boom to the town that they've ever seen in 25 years.
Yep. Yeah, it's funny. All the locals are coming up to us and telling us how nice all you guys are. The waitresses, the people at Dairy Queen, the biggest restaurant owner in the city, biggest businessman in the city. He gave us his phone number, wants to know more. He must, he's already shown his town how well PMAs work, which is what we teach. And I'm looking for my wife. She's somewhere around here. She's still talking to people. Imagine that. These guys just can't seem to get it right. It drives me crazy. I got the newspaper article right there. They can't get anything right, ever. There is such a big difference between sovereign citizens and the American state national movement. It's huge.
That's actually a question somebody wrote down for you to answer.
Really? Well,
Yeah.
Let's answer it right now, because...
Should we pray first before you get going?
No, hold on. This isn't class yet.
This is not class yet, y'all.
No, because we need our beautiful Hawaiian girl up here too. Where is she?
Where is
Come
our
here.
attendee from Hawaii? This is a lady that can sing much better than I ever could. Come
No,
on, girl.
you're gonna sing together.
Oh, we are. Okay. hold
But
on.
I want to say first, all you got to do is get the FBI police officers training manual on sovereign citizens. And we don't teach anything that's in there. We don't teach the 1099A program, the leaning judges and stuff. We don't do that crap. All that stuff's illegal. A lot of this, I don't even like the word straw man. Okay? Technically it is. Anytime you've got a mirror image of something, if there's two and more, well, it's a straw man of yourself, but I don't like that term because it's not what the law says. The law doesn't call it a straw man. The law calls it a vessel. It's a ship, it's a shipping company, it's in transportation, and the Department of Transportation has always been one of the most powerful organizations in the world because we are all on that citizenship.
When we're in commerce.
While operating in commerce. And we've got to understand the differences between the two. And there's a huge difference. To be an American state national, yes, you are sovereign, but sovereign, that's what the people are supposed to be. It's the way the founding fathers built this country. The people are sovereign, and every single law in this land says so. And yet these various agencies of government, like the, okay, I'll just say FBI and DHS and all these guys, the ones without even a charter to even exist, and no reason to exist other than to protect the cabal and the deep state. They do, because the 6 crimes the FBI was set up to protect are the crimes the cabal commits. So once you understand that, you're going to see, as you learn this state national process, the difference between the two. And I hope you all know that. I hope every one of you know that. Don't let these naysayers get to you. Don't let them. Look how much President Trump, look at the list of accomplishments. I didn't like brash New Yorkers to begin with. I really don't. I think they're all about the money, they're egotistical, and on and on and on as a whole in general. But I was grouping them all together, right? But I was taught to judge a man by his works. And when President Trump first took office, one of the very first things he did was put out a proclamation asking we the people for help. And no other president in history has ever done that. They've never done that. Just him. And there were good people around the United States that were writing letters and briefs and sending them to the president. He gave a 6-month period of time. And right in January, when he very first took office, he asked us for help and gave us 6 months to submit ways that he could help us. And lots of people did. Lots of people did. I submitted 5 briefs. And he read them. No other president's done that in history. And then you look at the list of his accomplishments. Judge a man by his works, right? I'm not saying he's the best. I'm not going to put him up on a pedestal. I think he could have did a heck of a lot more. But he did a lot, and he did more than any other president, and he couldn't look like a dictator. See, they would have hated me as president. Absolutely. I would have got up and fixed everything in the first 2 weeks, and they'd hung me a month later for being a dictator. They really would. Politics are something I'm not. I'm not very... When I see pain and suffering, I'm going to solve it. I would have called in the military, abolished CPS. I would have abolished the FBI. I would have made the Department of Homeland Security actual security for the people, to protect the people. I would have done all kinds of things. I would have got rid of about 600 agencies of government and just got rid of them. See? Because we don't need them. In fact, they're getting every industry of government to do things that are really destroying all of us. And we're all participating in it. So we're actually standing on both sides of the fence. We're destroying each other by following their regulations.
Maybe we need to pray before you get going. I'm just saying.
I'm not going.
Yes, you are.
All right.
teaching
All right.
already.
Go sing, go pray.
We want to recruit Neil. Didn't he do an amazing job yesterday? And again, this is about bringing in the heavenly frequencies. You know, I talked to one of the attendees last night as we had closed the event. Such a beautiful soul is this man. And he brought to my attention a scripture that has appeared very mysteriously to me previously. And he brought out a point that I thought was just so rich. There's a scripture, it's in Revelations 3, and it talks about when God closes a door, no man can open it. And when God opens a door, no man can close it. And then it talks about such are the keys to the house of David. And so I did a word search, and this was years ago, maybe 5 years ago. I did a word search on the keys, and there's not a whole lot of scriptures that talk about keys, like maybe 2 or 3 scriptures in all the Bible that talk about the keys to the house of David. And I'm like, what is that? Well, he brought to my attention yesterday that when we got started and we talked about the frequency of music and how even Christian music is played at a satanic frequency, that the keys are keys of vocal tones, of musical tones, of notes. Think about a note when you sing and how it opens up a gate of the heavenly angels to come down and be amongst us. So he brought that to my attention, that the keys to the house of David, remember how David wrote all the Psalms? And most of them were just music that he wrote and played, and how God was with him. And even when Saul in the Bible was losing his mind, he would call David in to play music for him, and it would calm King Saul's anxiety and stress, and it would set his mind straight. So this brother amongst us brought that to my attention. It's also found in was it Isaiah 22 that also talks about the keys to the house of David, and where a gate, where God opens the door, no man can close it, where God closes the door, no man can. Anyway, Isaiah 22 also mirrors that Revelations 3. So it gave me additional inspiration for us to sing again, because again, we're not using satanic frequencies, we're using the voices that God gave us. And when we praise and worship God, we know the heavenly angels join us. And this movement that we're in is a movement of righteousness. Even David had mentioned it, when we're mixing in the restaurants and we're meeting with law enforcement, that we operate with hearts of gentleness and love, and it melts the coldness and the anger and the preconceived ideas that we're some terrorist group, right? We want to win them over to our side, the side of righteousness. We want to win them over with love. There is no more powerful force on this planet than the force of love. It changes everything. It really does. And we're going to talk more about that today. But we want to sing for you. And I recruited some friends that sing much better than I do. So I'm excited to have them up here with me. My little squeaky white girl voice.
One of Bonnie's favorite songs, Amazing Grace, right?
Yes. So I
Yeah.
even have the book so we can do the second stanzas. I know it's kind of small print.
Yeah,
but
those words are so tiny.
I know.
Yeah, you know the second and third verse by heart, don't you?
Do I? Well, just in case I get nervous up here and singing in front of my friends.
We got your back.
You got my back.
Acapella unrehearsed.
Acapella,
Yes, we have not
unrehearsed.
harmonized previously, but
We're going to make it happen.
the word
we gonna
says make
dive
a
in.
joyful noise, right? And this is a lower tone, so you're going to do great with your bass voice.
Thank you.
We're going to try to keep it low. Us little
Right.
squeaky white girls, right? Okay. You going to start it off?
Amazing.
Too high, too high.
It's too high.
Too high. It's got to
tenor.
go lower.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound to save a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. 'Twas blind, but now I see. Second verse.
Was grace that brought my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear
The hour
I first believed. The love,
Hey.
the Lord, the
The
Lord has promised good
to me.
His word, my hope secure.
Incures,
He will my shield and portion be,
better glasses.
and long as life endures. Skip to the last verse. When we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, we've no less days to sing God's praise
Than when
we first believed.
Can somebody say hallelujah? Yeah. Thank you. Ain't God good?
God is good. We have a special treat. We want to have her sing.
Thank you, buddy.
Star Spangled
God bless.
Banner again, because David requested.
Yes, yes.
But can we have
And she's-
everybody stand up, because
Yes.
it's your patriot. You should be up here.
Yeah,
and
you can sing
singing
along
as
with her
well.
too. I'm gonna let you have this one alone, right? You
Oh
want me
my
to sing?
gosh. Yeah, whatever.
Okay.
This is your show.
No, it's not. It's all of us. Okay, here you go. She's got a better voice.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof to the light that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. Hallelujah. Praise God.
God is with us. Thank you. Oh, that was beautiful. That was beautiful. That's another song I sang from the jail cell. I'm telling you. They are so tired of me going to the jail. No, I'm kidding. They're like, because a lot of it's trying to break you down mentally if you ever have to go to jail, like I did for 30 days. And I would put on because I'm like, they're not the only ones captive. And I'm not the only one captive here. They are too. They have to put up with me, and I'm going to glorify God, and they're going to have to just listen. And I would put on an hour-long concert of hymns that I had memorized. And I had even jailers tell other people in the parts of the jail that lady doesn't belong here. And I sang that song, and I just, and my little squeaky white girl voice never sounded so good in a 10 by 12 concrete. It gave me so much volume, I didn't even need a microphone, and they could hear me from all over this huge jail. It was so beautiful. We have the power as God's children to bring light wherever we are. And sometimes God in his mercy for the lost will allow us to have storms where we are amongst the lost, that we can shine brightly and be an example of righteousness. Because I've come to the conclusion, when I stand in front of a judge, I might be the only example of righteousness they ever see. So I better represent my Father in heaven well. I better do a good job and not be a sharp-tongued, mean-spirited girl, because I know I can do that. I got some Irish blood in me, right? A little German too. So like, okay, Bonnie, keep it under, let God shine. Don't let your high Philly spirited hot tongue mess take over. Lord, subdue me, let your spirit shine through me. Anyway, let us pray, shall we? We want to ask the Father for a blessing this morning. Heavenly Father, we are so humbled to come before your brethren, your sisters, dear Lord, that you created, that you knew them from their mother's womb. You tell us in Jeremiah that you wove their flesh and bones together in their mother's womb. You knew them before they were even born. Dear Lord, you have a plan for these men and women and their families and their communities and their nation state. Dear Lord, I just pray that you use them in a mighty and a powerful way, that you would turn their heart light on, that it would shine forever, even into eternity. Let them leave this event and make it home safely, that you would station your angels around them and keep them safe, that you would protect them when they go out, when they come in, when they're in the country, when they're in the city, when they're in their kneading bowl, when they're blessed in the fruit of their womb, the fruit of their land, the fruit of their animals, everything, dear Lord. Bless them abundantly, more than they have room to receive. You tell us, dear Lord, that we do not receive blessings because we do not ask. We're asking today. You tell us in your word that when we ask, we shall receive. And we know that that's your will. We're asking today for protection, for a shield of blessing. Dear Lord, that you would waken our heart light, that you would deoxidize that pineal gland, that our hearts and minds would be tender to the promptings of your Holy Spirit. When you speak to us, we would recognize your voice. You tell us in your word, dear Lord, that my sheep know my voice and will follow me wherever I go. Help us to really get immersed into studying your word and to trusting and having faith in you, to speak faith and to pray in faith, and we know that mountains will move. I pray for blessing over each and every soul and every family member that's represented here. Bless them abundantly, Lord. Bless David and I. Bless David's feet and his legs and his back and his shoulders, his neck and his mind and his mouth, and use him for your glory. Lord, you love David. I see how you have blessed him over and over again and also kept him humble. Dear Lord, that he would be a mouthpiece for you today. Also, I need that blessing for myself as I'll be teaching also. I need your help because you have a message and I don't know what it is, but you'll give me what I need to say. I praise you and thank you in advance for the miracles that you're working in all of our lives. We praise you, we thank you, we glorify you. Your will be done. Your kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven. In Yeshua's precious name I pray. Amen.
Amen. I need the phone number of Mr. Robert Woolsey. Okay. So while looking at the camera, we're going to put this up. The man hasn't got a clue. And he's on the wrong side. He's on the side that fails. And I'd like to bring him over to the light, the side that's going to win, because God wins. This nation's going to win. We're told this nation will be restored, and it will be restored by those that stand. Everything they do to try and defeat us makes them look like idiots. And the people know it. The town knows it already. People from all over the town already know. And they see it. They're talking about it everywhere. I have been blessed throughout my life with really good hearing and the ability to listen to multiple conversations going at the same time. And while sitting in restaurants and things and going various places, I'm overhearing it. Hey, there's a guy that said he was a terrorist. And I'm overhearing these conversations. And the town already knows that everything they said in the paper was wrong. And now what I'm hearing is they're talking about the lady that owns the newspaper. And all the town people are saying they don't like her. She's just a liberal. And that this is Texas. I heard this conversation. That this is Texas. And in Texas, we're conservatives, especially out in the country. And she's a liberal. And they were saying how she's by herself around here. And I just smiled when I heard that. And that was about the third conversation that I was listening to at different tables in the restaurant. Last night, I thought it just made me smile. I thought it was so interesting. I'm going to try and go through some stuff just to have a little bit of fun again. Some more definitions. They're going to be more random today, but you're going to begin to understand. The definition of a constitution is a security with sureties created by constitutors. A security with sureties created by constitutors. A statute is the rules of an organization that may have the effect of law only with your consent. That's the definition of a statute. They may have an effect of law only with your consent. The definition of a state includes territories, counties, and districts. And that's in the Supreme Court of the United States, Rules 47.2. Okay? So if you want to know where I get definitions, I pull definitions of things from everything I read, from laws all over the country, and I try and find the most constitutional stuff I can find. Okay? So if you look it up on Wikipedia, it's probably not going to say that. Okay? All right. The definition of a corporate sole is a legal entity consisting of a single incorporated office occupied by a single natural person. A legal entity consisting of a single incorporated office occupied by a single natural person. This one I absolutely love. You ready for this? Registration. The definition of registration: the complete process of preparing to sell a newly issued security to the public. It's all about the bonds, always. The complete process of preparing to sell a newly issued security to the public. Weren't you registered at birth? Don't you register your car? It's a newly issued security sitting out there, a whole bunch of them with 4 wheels. They're all bonds. You pay money that you work hard to earn to an automobile dealership for a new car. You give it to the state so that they can issue a bond on it and profit from you. You need to know that. You gave them money to get a driver's license so that they could issue a bond to profit from you. Everything you do, they issue bonds to profit from you. Everything. And when you get that through our thick skulls, it took me a while. I get it. I used to be very stubborn when I was young. And I used to have to pound this crap in with a hammer. I did. I'd read it. I'd see it in my sleep. And I'd go, oh, it just can't be. They cannot be doing this to us. And I'd deny myself and the things I learned. I would deny the things that I was learning. And the more I learned, the more it added up until it's undeniable. That's what I want you guys to do. Just keep learning. Don't believe what I say. Don't you dare take it just on its face value. Get out there and learn it for yourself. Go research it. We got thousands of people on these Telegram channels researching everything we do. And they even start to deny it at first. And then they find it and they go, holy crap, David was right. Bobby was right. Don't they? You see it all the time. You watch them deny it on the Telegram channels, and then they find it.
Yep.
And we go, the student just became the teacher.
Yep.
Right?
Here's the challenge, folks, if I could, David.
Sure.
Here's the challenge. If you repeat back what you learned from David or myself or Bonnie, then that's your standing. If you go into a court or if you try to stand on what your claims are, well, what's your standing to make such a claim? And you say, I heard it from Bobby, I heard it from David. That administrator doesn't know who we are, doesn't care. But when you read it from the resources that we provide, now you've seen it with your own eyes and you own it. And you have confidence to stand on it like David and I do, and Bonnie, because we read it with our own eyes. Now your standing is on a solid foundation. And like David was talking yesterday, don't give up. This is the bicycle of freedom. When
That's one way to put it.
when your parents gave you a bicycle for the first time, and you got on it, and you rode it down the hill, and you wrecked it, did you get off the bicycle and say, that damn thing don't work, and Mom and Dad, you're a fraud? You lied to me and said that bicycle worked. Or did you get back on it and you rode it and you wrecked it and you rode it and you rode it until you found out how to take the training wheels off of it? It's no different than this bicycle of freedom, is it, David?
No different at all. That's a good analogy. I've never used that one, but hey.
Don't give up.
It's an easy thing for people to understand. Every teacher has his methods. That's awesome. Thank you, Bobby. Appearance. The formal proceeding by which a defendant submits himself to the jurisdiction of the court as a defendant is one who defends a trust. I will. I know you can't write this crap down. That's what's on video. You can't write it that fast. Appearance. The formal proceeding by which a defendant submits himself to the jurisdiction of the court. A defendant is one who defends a trust. Everything is about trust. You get that through your head. I'm going to tell you a quick little story about that. Rob put on a seminar in Austin, Texas. It was me, Ron Gibson, and Anna Von Reitz, all the General Assemblies. And I spoke for 3 days. And then Ron spoke for 1 day. And then Anna spoke for half a day. And then me and Ron and Anna sat up front at this table. And there was, I don't remember how many, but about as many as was in this room, and a lot of people online. And everybody was asking questions. Rob was asking the questions from the online people, and people were asking questions from the audience. And Anna, they'd ask Anna questions and she'd answer them. They'd ask Ron questions, they'd answer them. Then they'd say, what does David say? And I'd answer just about every question all three of us were asked. And you can go back and watch the video, right? And Anna came to my room with about 7 people to my hotel room. And we talked for several hours after that. And then Anna and I talked in emails and on the phone, and we went on for about 3 weeks. And it was, the vast majority of it was all about trusts. And at the end of the 3 weeks, the last conversation, Anna says, I absolutely don't believe in trusts. I believe they're evil. I believe they came from the Vatican because of the Unum Sanctum and the first 3 testamentary trusts that the Vatican wrote. And I said, Anna, you're a fool. I said, trust came from the Bible. They came from God. And every nation is a trust. And she didn't believe me. She denied it. And that went on for a long, long time. And then all of a sudden I start to see little articles she writes and she signs her name, and then now she's claiming fiduciary. Well, that's a trust word. That's a jurisdiction of the error word. That's all about trust. And so, without wanting to deny all the things she was teaching about trust, because she saves everything she's ever written, and she's a prolific writer, because what else you have to do in Alaska when it's 20 below in January? Okay? She doesn't travel all over the country very often. Maybe once or twice a year, 3 times a year. I do more in a week than she does in a year. But she can write. I don't have time for that crap. I don't sit there and write things about people. In fact, I love people. I even love Anna. I love the fact that people are standing up. You stand up, I'm going to love you to death. And Anna wakes people up a little bit and gets them started on this path until they outgrow her. Her students outgrow her. And then pretty soon her groups start arguing with her. And then she kicks that group to the side and tries to start a new one in that area. And she does it. I've watched her for 35 years. I cannot tell you how many entire, wonderful, entire assemblies around this country that she's just kicked to the curb. And when a member of them goes to jail, she won't even help them. They're on their own. She doesn't back up any of her people, any of the time. And people that carry the ID around are carrying around an ID with a trademarked logo of the United States government. And she admitted she swore a blood oath to the Vatican. And I still love her for waking people up a little bit. She can't get them more than 20 or 30% along the way. She can never get them to their fullest state. In fact, what she was doing at first was with the Form 56, she was making Mnuchin the fiduciary of your trust. That's about the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. Then she changed and she started making herself the fiduciary of your trust. And she made in my opinion, she has done the paperwork to take thousands and thousands of people's trust to form her own bank. And I'm tired of watching the fraud now. So I'm going to talk about it a little bit.
Finally.
Let me tell you something. I know you've been waiting for me to do this.
I've been waiting, brother.
See, I am the most peaceful man in the world. I'm the biggest, toughest cake of dynamite you've ever seen. At the same time, but I got the world's longest fuse. I can go decades and just smile and let them stomp us a little bit. But I'm tired of letting them stomp us. I just let her, she praises me and then she tears us up. And then she praises and then she tears us up. And it's not just me. It's lots and lots of people around the United States who are standing and doing good things. Let me tell you something. I'd rather have people standing even if they're wrong than not standing. The biggest problem we've had in America is people won't get off the couch. They won't stop watching their sporting events and doing their hobbies. I grew up as a kid, loved fishing. I lived on a river. We had some of the most beautiful rivers in Oregon you ever saw. Crystal clear water with salmon this big. Sometimes trout that big. Okay? Crystal clear, beautiful water. I'd get done fishing, I'd swim across. I wouldn't climb in a river in Texas for anything in the world. Never know what's in there. There's funny looking fish called alligator gar that are, you ever seen one of those things? It looks like a prehistoric dinosaur. It's crazy. Anyway, not to mention the water moccasins, but resolution, a formal expression of opinion or intention made after voting, usually by a formal legislative organization. Does this sound like Congress? Okay, it is. What does the word Congress mean? Anybody? Nope. A group of baboons. A group of baboons is a Congress. It's exact. Even ancient Rome, when it was run by the king, it was utopia on earth. It was heaven for the citizens of Rome. They had everything they wanted. They didn't have any stress. They were well protected. They weren't taxed very much or anything. And then some things happened. The king started getting old. He wanted to turn things over to his son. A little war happened. His son led the army over there because he was a soldier. All Roman men were soldiers until they got to a certain age. And he was a soldier and he got killed in a battle, protecting other Romans, which I found was interesting. He was protecting the citizens. And his son had a son. He was a teenager. And so the older king, the grandfather, started grooming his son to take over Rome, as kings did. Kings were blessed by God, believe it or not. Not all of them were evil kings. Don't get that wrong. And they were blessed. Some became very evil. Some did some very nasty things. Power goes to some people's heads. And some people are benevolent kings. King David was the most mentioned name in the Bible. He's mentioned more in the Bible than Christ himself. Okay? Without King Solomon, where would we be? But this young man who was being groomed to be king was going to take over on his 21st birthday. His granddad was in his 80s. He was 82 to be exact. And just while riding across a meadow, his horse tripped. And he fell and he hit his head on his rock and was killed. And the king was so distraught that he turned Rome over to his Congress and his Senate. And he went to France to live in a cousin's chateau and live out the rest of his life. And it was part of God's plan that took out those two righteous sons and grandson. That took them out. It was God's plan. Because had Rome not been turned over to Congress and Senate, because then it went to hell. But they turned it over to Congress and the Senate, Christ would never have been crucified. And you need to know that. And he had to be. Because he was put here on earth to set an example and then to die for all of us. And he died a very violent, nasty death with much pain and torture. And he died, and all of your sins are forgiven if you will accept that. And forgive yourself and ask for forgiveness from God, you will be forgiven. And we're all men. We're all men and women. And we all sin. So please understand the reason why that happened. But what happened? The Senate and Congress took over. What have you seen happen in America today? Just a replay of Rome's history, pretty much. Biden ain't running this nation. Nancy has been. I'm telling you. But more than just her. What I really want you to know is Obama's had a big hand behind the scenes. In fact, I believe he's the king of the world cabal, the Antichrist. And I believe that with all my heart, because I'm watching what he's doing behind the scenes, keeping track. I'm watching it. I'm watching it worldwide. I'm watching the things he says. Because, dang it, I was taught to analyze everything, especially our enemies. And I believe he is an enemy. And he always has been. I believe we only had 19 good presidents. And if I really want to be harsh in my judgment of our ex-presidents, I will believe that only 4 of them were really good men at heart. 4 since the beginning. And let's take a look at that. Garfield, what happened to him? He was shot at a movie theater in New York. He died of his wounds 30 days later of infection in his gunshot wound. What happened to President Kennedy? What happened to Reagan? He was shot twice, and near the end of his presidency, his family was threatened a lot. And you saw in his works where he started to slightly slack off. You know how many times President Trump's life was at risk? He didn't get shot, but boy, it came close several times. I may be wrong in my number, but if I'm wrong on the conservative side. I know his life was at risk where he could have died 19 times. 19 times. And I'm on the conservative side. I think it was more than that. And the funny thing is, it's like it never phases him at all. He doesn't add more security. He still gets up in front of massive crowds, bigger than any president has ever gotten in front of in his life, and he dances. He's not very good at it, but I love to watch him. Oh, it's great. Does Congress make law? No. They make rules, acts, and statutes. What does our Supreme Court say? I'm going to read that to you in a bit. I'll skip that for now. The definition of authenticate is the act of giving authority to a record so as to render it legally admissible as evidence. The definition of apostille, I know you guys have been wanting these, is the United States of America jurisdiction requires authentication, and the United States Inc. jurisdiction requires an apostille. Okay, that's something new for you, Bobby, probably, because you've got to understand how they really have kept this hid. They could have had one set of books that says, go here, here's all the laws for America. This will tell you everything. It's right here. They could have done that. Wouldn't have been that hard. But what do they do? They put it in constitutions. They put our law in treaties. They put our law in American jurisprudence. Corpus juris secundum. If I want to learn how the courts work, I go to American jurisprudence and corpus juris secundum. Do you guys even know what those are? See, most people don't. They put it in the United States Code. They put it in state statutes. They put it here, there, everywhere, all over the stinking place. And you find little pieces of the puzzle here, there, everywhere, and all over the place. So unless you read everything on the face of the planet that has to do with our federal government, you're missing pieces of the puzzle. And they know that. And that's why everybody grows up, all of us, and I'm including me, every one of us grows up absolutely ignorant to what they're doing. I'm still learning stuff every single day, and I've been doing this forever. I could have been fishing. I like horses. I've raised almost 1,000 horses in my lifetime. Wasn't that long ago I was running 150 head. I'm down to 17, and I'm going to get down to like 3 or 4. But I love horses. I won 2 championships on horseback, national championships. A lot of Pacific Northwest stuff. I love horses. One of my absolute favorite ways to get close to God is to get on horseback and go up in the mountains of Oregon. I used to ride and ride and ride. I had one mare. Every good horseman hopefully runs into one horse in their lifetime that it is such a close bond, they would die for you. They would do anything for you. I had a mare that thought she was a mountain goat. She stood on the top of the North Sister. She stood up on Mount Jefferson twice. She's been up on the top of Mount Adams. I'm up there with guys that climbed up with climbing gear. And I'm wearing a cowboy hat and boots and chaps and riding a horse. And they're going, how the heck did you get up there? For 18 years, late November elk hunt up in Eagle Cap. Eagle Cap Wilderness in Oregon is known as the Alps of Oregon. Late November up in those mountains. Sometimes there's snow drifts across the trail 20 feet deep. And this horse would come down the trail and I wouldn't even touch the reins. I let her do her thing. And she analyzes the trail, and you could see it in her eyes and you can watch it in her ears. And she picks where every foot goes so carefully. And one of those big drifts that come off the mountain 20 feet deep, and she'd look at that, and the trail's piled up with snow. And she'd look at that, and she'd go, all right. She'd get about 20 feet from it. She'd start to run. She'd run up the side of that thing and put her haunches down and almost slide down the other side on her ass till she hit the trail. And she did it perfectly every time. And if you want to know you got a real mountain horse and you're a real cowboy, you go take the Francis Lake Trail in Eagle Cap. Because you'll park your pickup down at the campground at the bottom and get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and wash your head in a stream that's crystal clear, that little pieces of ice are coming down, and wash yourself off, climb up on your horse and start to leave before it gets light. And you'll ride all the way till noon, till you're ready to have lunch and your belly's growling. And you'll ride up the mountain like this. And when you stop for lunch, you can pick up a rock and toss it down like that and hit your pickup. In this direction, you haven't gone from the front of the room to the back of the room. And you've been riding for hours. That's when you know you got a really good horse. And I love that. And it's been a long time since I've been on horseback, and it's been since 2006 since I held a fishing pole. And the only thing I can tell you is because I love you more. I love this country more. I've given up a lot of my life and a lot of hours to read and study and help others. So I don't care the crap they write about me. I really don't. It doesn't faze me a bit. I get up in the morning, I put some music on, I dance with my wife, we have breakfast and coffee, we have a great morning, and I come see people. The days we're not having a seminar, I go in my office and people come in all day. And it's a beautiful thing. I want you to know I love you guys very much. And if we all loved each other enough, what a paradise we would be in. These police officers wouldn't be stopping us on the side of the road. They wouldn't be hassling you. The ordinance people in the cities wouldn't be hassling you. Nobody hassles me. They really don't. I even get their attention so I can teach them. And I'm not afraid to. See, because once your knowledge, what is fear? What is fear? It's a lack of knowledge. And that's all it is, guys. So if you're scared, you need to learn something. That's all it is. Fear is God telling you, go learn about it, right? Go learn about it. If you're scared of this, whatever it is, being exported, right? Go learn. Because it's never going to happen. You're afraid of stuff that ain't going to happen. And once you have the knowledge and what to do and how to stand, well, then it's easy. This stuff I'm teaching is really not hard. It's only hard and difficult for you. That's how you perceive it, because you've been taught differently your whole life. Once you know what it means, it's easy. And the nice thing about the American State National Movement is it's the damn truth. And everything we tell you, we can back up. This is years of studying and finding these things spread here and there and everywhere. And it's putting the pieces of the puzzle together in a way hopefully you can understand, and I hope I get to be a better teacher. I keep trying to improve and do things differently. I never do anything the same way. Constantly try and talk to you and do things differently. But I see in America right now, I see millions of people who are a little farther ahead than others and jumped right into it and said, okay, and got her done. And now I'm seeing the second wave. And the second wave of people are people, man, they'll do all their paperwork. They know it's right. They feel it in their heart. They know something's been wrong all these years. And they just can't get it off the desk to go record it. Or get it mailed. Or get it served. They're just scared of something. I want you to know there's a third wave, and I'm already seeing some of those pop up. And they're the people, they won't even quite do their paperwork because they're so scared, but they also think that it's just going to happen automatically. That somebody like President Trump's going to come back in office, he's going to declare everything sovereign and everything back to a republic and everybody free, and all the other crap's going to go away, and all these agencies are going to get dissolved, and all these courts are going to quit their admiralty law. You know, December 15th of last year, Judge Clarence Thomas of the Supreme Court stood, gave a speech. It was about a case they did with COVID, which really wasn't the main point of what I'm trying to say. He put little nuggets in that speech, and he actually declared admiralty law dead in this country in that speech. Because when our common law courts stand up, admiralty is going to go away. It has to. It's in the law that it goes away. We just haven't been standing up running our courts. We're not organized. In fact, we're so disorganized, it's pathetic. The FBI agents come to me. I've had them sit in classes. Some of them are my friends, become my friends, and are all for what we do. And then there's others. Well, like this guy, he's an idiot. And they come and they basically say that they've never ever worried about the Patriot movement. They've never worried about it because there's so much fighting, bickering, backbiting, arguing with inside every single group that and all the different groups and the different factions and everything, that we're never going to unite well enough to make any change. Do you know the only thing that's united enough of us is this American State National Movement? And we're doing it all lawfully. We're not against government. We're not anti-government. We're peaceful. We fly the peace flag. We don't do anything, break any real laws. None. We follow the Constitution. We follow the Supreme Court of the United States. We follow our founding documents. We understand the law. We hold our public servants accountable when they step outside their scope and authority of the law. All the law's on our side. That's the beauty of this whole thing. Everything we do is right. And we do nothing that's in that FBI Sovereign Citizens Training Manual for the police. We don't teach that crap. Let me tell you something, that whole IRS 1099A stuff doesn't even make a lick of sense to me, because I know that, and I was taught to look at the origins of things. Who is the IRS? Where'd they come from? How did we arrive having this group called the Internal Revenue Service? What do they do? What are they supposed to do? I'm the guy that asks those kind of questions no matter who I'm dealing with. What is the origin? I've stood in court 200 times or more and asked judges, what is the law? Where does origins come from? How did we arrive at this thing called law, where a small group of men could put something down on paper and hold me, a man, accountable? Well, we've always fought for freedom in this nation. What is it? Where'd it come from? It came from Genesis, right out of the Bible. God's laws, nature's laws. Those are the highest laws. Those are superior. God put two trusts into the Bible. The Bible is two separate trust indentures, the Old Testament and the New Testament. Every nation is formed on trust. Every court is formed on trust. Every government is a trust. I keep reading little definitions that point that out all the time to you. A man is no less a slave if he is allowed to choose a new slave master every 4 years. Do you know who said that? That's a quote from Thomas Jefferson. If you go to the Jefferson Memorial in Washington, D.C., it's my favorite of all the memorials in Washington, D.C. It's a beautiful place to go. Man, there's quotes from him all over the walls, all the way around, on all the pillars. There's quotes from him. It's one of the best presidents we ever had. It's Thomas Jefferson. A legal definition of an attorney is to attorn, to take property from one person and give it to another. It is an actor. An actor is someone who practices law by getting up on stage and being convincingly enough. It actually says arguing convincingly enough. I don't like that word argue. I like communication. Arguing convincingly enough to make you believe in the character and the plot. That's the very definition of a liar. Public versus private. Public versus private. The definition. Now this comes out of Article 3 of the Judiciary Mason's Manual. Anything registered in the public domain is public. Your car, your house, your all caps name, anything created by Congress is statutory jurisdiction. And anything in an Article 3 of our Constitution is a private jurisdiction. What is our Article 3 courts? You need to know this. It's the Supreme Court of the United States of America. Their job is this: to take any decision made under statutory law, to review it, to see if it meets the standards of the Bible, those 4 founding documents. That's their job. Anything that violates your rights in the Bible and those 4 founding documents is ruled against and is null and void if we have an honest judiciary. But here's one of the problems in the United States. Back when the United States had a total population of 7 million, that's less than Dallas-Fort Worth, right? This whole country had a population of 7 million. We had 9 Supreme Court justices. The population is 335 million, approximately, and we have 9 Supreme Court justices. Your odds of getting heard in the Supreme Court are almost nothing. It's to the point that it is so expensive. I know a guy that spent more than $15,000 just to prepare the books and paperwork needed that was required by the Supreme Court to even submit his case. That was actual cost. He did all the work himself. That was the cost to put those together. Paper and ink and a special printer and all kinds of things. And to actually get it heard is less than 1%. Now let's look at another aspect. The Constitution of the United States says we are required to have 1 representative in Congress for every 30,000 people. That means we're supposed to have more than 10,600 congressmen right now. How many we have? We're supposed to have more than 10,000. Do we have fair representation? There's the problem. We need fair representation. We, the people, need to be demanding more congressmen. This nation is a constitutional republic. It has to abide by the Constitution. And it's breaking one of the fundamental amendments right there. And then our courts go on to do the same thing. Administrative courts in the state, they're not Article III courts. Run by magistrates. The federal circuit courts are the extension of the Supreme Court. The federal district courts are not. The federal district courts are under admiralty jurisdiction. See, we don't know how our courts work in the United States, and you wonder why you're never successful, hardly, in our courts. Because we don't even know which ones we're supposed to be working in. For what reason? If your rights are violated by a police officer, your documents need to be full of the facts on how did they violate your rights. You can't just go in and say, he violated my 4th Amendment, my 5th Amendment, my 7th Amendment rights. You can't do that. You got to prove facts showing how he violated those rights. See? And very few of us know how to do that. You do it through an affidavit. An affidavit puts facts on the record. Nothing else does. It's funny how a lot of lawyers say, no, we just do motions. Because they can't do affidavits. They can't put facts on the record. They have to do it through testimony. It's the only way they can. They can't do it through an affidavit. But you see these politicians who get in trouble, very first thing they do is an affidavit. If it's good enough for them, why isn't it good enough for you? That's what they do. You cannot be charged in one jurisdiction and try and defend yourself in another. Understand that. This is why you have to take dominion over all three. I keep telling Anna's people, it's great to want to be on the land. That's where most of us should spend the majority of our time, walking upon the earth, on the land, in that jurisdiction where we're under titles and rights. Titles and rights. But see, that we don't know the law again. Law is land, air, and water. Genesis 1:26 through 28. God commanded me to take dominion over the land, air, and water, and this is law. The land is common law, common to all mankind. It's property, equity, and rights. It boils down to who holds superior title and who has superior rights. The air is ecclesiastical or canon law. That's where it manifests. You'll also see it in corpus juris secundum, jurisprudence. It's trust law. To be a fiduciary is the highest form of law. To be responsible for the benefit of another or beneficiary. That's what God did. He was the executor. He created all things. He put it up to mankind to take dominion. They're the trustees for the benefit of the begats. Who begat who and who begat who and who begat who. That's their heirs, their beneficiaries forever. Bible's a trust indenture. The air is always above the land, which is above the water. It's the highest form of law. The water's admiralty or commerce. It is rules, codes, statutes, ordinances, executive orders, mandates. Oh, that whole thing, mandate. What does the Supreme Court say? I'm going to read it later. Rules, codes, statutes, and ordinances are not law. They're corporate bylaws. They're for employees of the corporation to follow. We are not anti-law. We are supreme law and superior law. Okay? We come out of her, O ye Babylon. Come out of that corporate construct. That's what we need to do. Land, air, and water. What is water? It's contract law. So all things are held in title and rights. That's why we used to call them property rights, right? Held in trust or held in contract. You remember that little simple thing right there. You know more about law than most people. And remember that all judges administrate all three every time. So how do you just be on the land? It's impossible and it doesn't make sense. We need to obey the law. If you signed a valid contract that met the 8 parts of a contract I read to you yesterday, and you violate that, you're guilty of breaking the law. As long as that contract had all 8 parts. You're guilty of breaking the law. You break a trust, well, God help you. Better repent and make somebody whole, right? Title, well, that's a lot easier. Is it? No, because you have to stand on it. You have to develop standing. Status, standing, and jurisdiction is everything in the law. Everything. Everything. This is why when we teach this, so many attorneys and police officers and judges are coming over to our side. They're learning it. When you get guys like the newspaper article was written by, and that you're going to have those. We've got FBI and border agents and all Department of Homeland Security people. One of the members of my children's team, her husband has been a DHS officer for a long time, and he loves us. He loves us. And I have the contacts and the clearances to contact DHS, and we have never, ever, ever been considered a terrorist by DHS. In fact, we have limited diplomatic immunity, and when they scan our passports, it says, do not stop and do not detain. And when we go to other countries with our state national passports, we're treated better than the U.S. citizens are treated. When I got off the plane in China, I don't know where these guys came from. They came out of doors from all over the place. And they picked up my bags. I kind of freak out a little bit. I've been in New York, Chicago. I kind of freak out a little bit about that. I've been in Detroit. And now here I am in a foreign country. Been there 5 times, and they come out as soon as that guy scans my passport, or it's like some alarm goes off, and they come out and they pick up my bags and they go, David, how can we help you? Have you arranged transportation? Do you have a hotel? They won't let me touch my bags. They carry it for me all the way through Shanghai Airport. It's like miles. I mean, 21 million people in that city. It's a big airport. And they just treat you so nice. They asked me if I wanted something to drink, if I'd eaten dinner yet, if the flight was okay, if they fed me well on the plane. They wouldn't stop. They treat you well. And I've been all over the world since I've been a state national. And they treat you well. I got a group of 2,500 people up in St. Petersburg, Russia that want me to come speak. Germany called me, the largest television station in Germany called me and said, David, we're following the state national movement. We're a United Nations nation. It all applies here too. It's just a little different how it applies. The path is a little different, but it's a United Nations nation just like we are, and the problems are all the same. And he says it's because we're making such a critical difference in Eastern Europe and Germany. And they're doing a documentary. And they're interviewing me. They're going to put it on Germany's largest television station. Had 10,000 people watch a seminar that we did in Keene, Texas. 10,000 people in churches in 5 countries in South America watch us. They went to church for 3 days watching us, doing exactly what you guys are doing here. Australia, New Zealand. I've been to Australia twice, New Zealand 3 times. I've been up in Canada maybe 100 pre-COVID. I haven't gone up there since. But now that's just changed. It's such a beautiful thing what's happening worldwide. 100 million people worldwide are watching us. And some very prominent people watch us. When I stepped off the stage in Keller and Bonnie got up here to speak, I walked over to the windows, my phone rang. I'd just turned my phone on between here and the window. And my phone rang. And I got some incredible news. President Trump had been watching. He was actually sent little short segments. He had one of his staff watch the whole thing. Short segments of it were recorded, key parts, and were sent over to President Trump. And he's paying attention to what we're doing, and I'm getting feedback. And we have senators and congresswomen and congressmen. Senator Doug Mastriano, President Trump called him and said, pay attention to what David and Bobby are doing. You're going to be governor. What they're teaching. Pay attention. See, what these people like this guy doesn't know is I have senators, congressmen, I have the president's attorney's cell phone numbers in my phone. I have the president's cell phone numbers in my phone. And his whole family. And he's been a state national since 2008, the real president. Not the one running the White House Office, Inc., but the one running the United States of America. And there's 2 different nations operating side by side right now. And if the news agencies would get off their ass and understand something and stop reporting what the cabal want and the Khazarian Jews want them to report, they're all owned by 6 people, every one of them. And I'm not talking about the small town newspapers, I'm talking about the biggies. Are all owned by 6 people. And they're all told the same thing, and they all puppet the same words. And we've proved that, haven't we? Have you seen the videos where we put 30 of them up on a video, and they're all saying the same words at the same time? They're just a bunch of puppets. And it's more important to report recipes and what they're having for lunch and, than it is to report the real news. Newspapers don't know how to write news anymore. They really don't. I can't blame them. They haven't got a clue. They don't know what investigative journalism really is. They don't do their damn research. If they did, before they wrote an article like this stupid thing, they'd have a book like this that's full of the law. Or more. But they don't, so they don't know. And that costs a couple hundred people from coming, which I'm sure it did. So not only is it slander and trademark violation, it's incorrect information. It's false, it's lies, it's the opine of one man who hasn't got a clue. "35 years of doing this and traveling around the country and talking to thousands and thousands and thousands of people. Had the FBI show up. They leave within 3 minutes. 3 minutes, they're down the road. They did that in Missouri. Day one, morning one, showed up. They leave. You know how hard it is for us to prove we have more authority than they do? Every single constitution ever written shows we have more authority than they do. Let's talk just a minute about their authority. It's fine. It's codified in statute. That's where they get it. The Constitution that this nation was founded on and all its founding documents says only a president or Congress, only Congress, can create an agency of government. The FBI was created by a secretary at the Department of Justice. A secretary. Nice big lawsuit against the FDA found that policies that they've been putting people in jail for years were written by a lady named Mrs. Diggs, an employee. The only ones that can write policy for an agency is somebody appointed by the president or somebody elected. If they're not elected or appointed, they have no authority to make policy. And Miss Dix worked there 30 years creating policies. She created over 1,890 policies for the FDA that put people in prison without having any authority to create a policy. It took that long, 30 years, to call her out on it. And then all the 1,890 policies were removed. They had to start over. That's holding that one person accountable. What about the FBI? 1975, I think it was, they were sued. They lost the lawsuit. They were sued for not having any authority, for not having a congressional charter to operate. So they went to Congress and formally asked Congress for a charter. I have the letter. We posted on our Telegram. We posted on our websites. Right, Bobby? And the letter from the Library of Congress says when the FBI went in front of Congress to formally ask for a congressional charter so they had authority, they were denied. From 1908 to 1975, they'd never been challenged. Isn't that sad? They'd never been challenged. They got challenged. They went to ask for a congressional charter and were denied. Where's the FBI get their authority? Tons of money. The best forensics teams in the world. Those pretty black Suburbans, that nice suit, a badge, and a gun. And they go up to the county sheriff and they say, hey, this case you've been working on, we heard about that. We're going to take over that right now. Where's our office space? And the sheriff shrinks down a little bit. It's the federal government, it's the FBI. It's right over there. Anything you need coffee? And they scare and intimidate the sheriff, who has every authority to kick them the heck out of their county, because he's the highest elected law enforcement in the land of that county. And I love our sheriffs. We have some good sheriffs in this country. We have some good police chiefs. The police are calling us to come teach their officers the difference between an American state national and a sovereign citizen. I understand that sovereign citizen movement. That ain't us. In fact, it's as far from us as you can get. I've taken an oath 3 times to this nation. 3 times. And I love this country and I love its people more than anything. Enough to give up most of my life, the things that I love, the fishing and the horseback riding and a lot of the farming. I can't run 3,000 acres of farming anymore. I can't raise 12,000 tons of alfalfa under pivot anymore. I can't do it. I can't manage the employees. I never did it. They drove the tractors. No, that's not true. I helped them too. I had to teach them anyway. But I can't do it. I've had to change my entire life, my lifestyle. I lost wives over it and family members, real liberal family members. One who believes absolutely that Obama saved his life with Obamacare. That's why I have a sign on my office door, the back side of my office door. I close the door and it says, "Bang head here." So funny.
You going to talk about EPA versus West Virginia of this year?
I'll let you do that. All court cases are commercial warfare under international commercial law. All parties to a cause must appear by nom de jure, which is the name of war, because an alien enemy cannot maintain an action during the war in his own flesh and blood name. War is a gigantic commercial transaction. All war is commerce, and all commerce is war. You guys know where you got that? I'll let you take a guess. Congressional record. Yesterday, I was trying to find all the papers I had because my book got all shuffled. I was up a long time this morning putting that book together. We were talking about Title 26 yesterday. Title 26 of the United States Code is what? IRS code. In Title 26, 7806B, it says that Title 26 is not the law. No inference, implication, or presumption of legislative construction shall be drawn or made by reason of the location or grouping of any particular section or provision or portion of this title. The definition of legislative construction means law. Do you understand what that says? It goes on further to say, and I don't know if I can read it, this is a poor photocopy, and I don't have my glasses on. Of law, where the word see, S-E-E, is used, are made only for convenience and shall be given no legal effect. It goes on to say in D, No reference, implication, or presumption of legislative construction shall be drawn or made by reason of the location or grouping of any particular section or provision of this portion of this title, nor shall any table of contents, table of cross-reference, or outline, analysis, or descriptive matter relating to the contents of this title be given any legal effect. The preceding sentence also applies to the side notes and ancillary tables contained in the various points of this act before the enactment into law. Only Congress can create law. It's ratified by the Senate, it's signed by the President, and it's approved by the Mayor of the District of Columbia in order for it to be law. I want you to please keep understanding this because we keep having so much fun with it. Forgot to read the backside of this. We had a little fun. I had somebody in the seminar come up and talk about, he comes up to me and says, David, last week, and he flew here from Australia, the last seminar. Guy flew all the way from Australia to Bismarck. That's North Dakota. The wind was blowing so hard, I thought Gwen was going to get blown across the parking lot. She doesn't weigh anything. And she was like this in the wind, like walk. And on the way back from walking across the street, all she did is leaned back like this, and her feet moved to keep up with her. The wind was just taking her. Wasn't it? I know, like a leaf. It was pretty funny. I thought I was going to have to hold her down to the pavement. It was cold. I don't know how anybody lives up there, really. I just don't. It's pretty country in the summer. But anyway. So anyway, he runs up to me and he says, they just took all the money out of my bank account. Good thing he was stashing a little under his mattress. But they'd taken all the money out of his bank account and he didn't know what to do about it. And I said, call the NAB. He goes, what? I said, the National Association of Banking. It doesn't matter if you're in Australia. It's a UN nation. Same crap's going on there that's going on here. And Biden wrote the executive orders. They can take the money out of your bank account too. So over there, they're pulling money out of people's banks already, and they started in September. I don't know what happened there. I told you, right? So I said, call the NAB. The nice thing about some of the government sites and banking sites is they have AI answering the phones. Hey, at least with AI, you get honest answers. People can lie to you. Like when we called the United States Treasury and we said, who owns the United States Treasury? And the AI computer said, Donald J. Trump. And you wonder why the one in Washington, D.C. is empty and it's got a boarded up fence around it with 18 feet high, steel, without a gate. So we called AI and we did a snapshot on his phone from the website. It's beautiful. NAB chat. It said, virtual assistant, 8:07 a.m. Hi there, I'm NAB's secure virtual assistant. I can answer your banking questions or guide you to the right person. How may I help you? And aren't they nice? I love that. He said, my bank account has been drained of funds and I don't understand why. I would have said the same thing. And the virtual assistant came back on and said, we can only discuss details of the decedent's accounts with the legally authorized representatives of their estate. will work with the named executors where there's a will, or the administrator or immediate next of kin where there isn't a will. We can't release any funds until the estate is finalized. Although you may be able to access funds to cover the deceased's funeral costs, funds will be released via electronic funds transfer per the authorized representative's instructions. See, they don't go after you, the man or the woman. They go after your trust, after your estate, and you're a decedent, a dead entity, a vessel. I thought that was pretty interesting, the words the AI computer used, and they're highly accurate. See, on and on and on, we keep learning bits and bits of information. It's just beautiful. Oh yeah, I have it. I'm not going to give it to you. I don't have his permission to do that. I'm not like a lot of these newspapers and crap. They don't do it. This comes out of the FBI's manual on sovereign citizens for training of the police. I only printed 4 pages. And it's stuff we don't teach. I suggest you study that crap and learn the difference. We don't want sovereign citizens out there. We want kings. We want free men and women, free Americans, Americans who love this country, who love God. And just like our founding fathers, we want Americans who will pledge their sacred honor and their fortunes and their lives to protect and defend not only this nation, this beautiful country that we live in, but all of its beautiful people. Every one of them. Many are imperfect. Remember that. That's okay. People make mistakes. They can repent. And if they repent, we forgive. If they don't repent, and that goes for judges and lawyers and politicians and everybody else, if they don't repent, then we hold them accountable. And as long as we do that, we'll right this nation automatically. It'll be super sweet and easy. Oh, wish my eyes were a little less fuzzy this morning. The print's pretty small, so forgive me. I wanted to have a little more fun with the IRS. So, since we love this beautiful state of Texas so much, we called and wrote a FOIA to the Office of the Secretary of State. This is Ruth R. Hughes. And we asked her to produce a certificate of fact. Okay? Sign it and put her seal on it. On her letterhead. And we asked her to verify that the Internal Revenue Service had a license to do business with the state of Texas, or the people of the state of Texas. A license to do business in Texas. Any kind of a license issued from anywhere in Texas. Or to do, even if it's an international license from some other country, registered with the state of Texas to do business. They could have been registered in another state, another nation. We don't care. I wanted to see a license that the Internal Revenue Service had to do and transact business in the state of Texas with the people of the state. And that's the words the FOIA used. And this is what we got back. The undersigned as Secretary of the State of Texas, hereby certifies that a diligent search of the records of this office were performed on the name Internal Revenue Service. It is further certified that the search revealed the following. They're bullet pointed, little tiny bullets. There is no record of a domestic corporation, professional association, limited partnership, limited liability partnership, or limited liability company by the name searched, Internal Revenue Service. There is no record of a foreign corporation, professional association, limited partnership, limited liability partnership, limited liability company, business trust, real estate investment trust, or other foreign filing entity with a registration to transact business by the name searched, Internal Revenue Service. There is no record of an out-of-state financial institution registration in the state of Texas by the name searched, Internal Revenue Service. There is no record of an assumed name certificate on file by the name searched, Internal Revenue Service. There is no record to indicate that a designation of agent for service of process is on file for any Texas financial institution, unincorporated nonprofit association, or defense-based development authority, or any other entity by the name searched, Internal Revenue Service. In testimony whereof I have hereunto signed my name officially and caused to be impressed hereon the seal of state at my office in Austin, Texas on May the 11th of 2020. Ruth R. Hughes, Secretary of State, the state of Texas. She's got her phone numbers on here and everything else. Their letterhead. Now, what have I told you? We pay our taxes to the federal government to cover the 19 essential governmental services that we contracted for that are listed clearly in the Constitution, and I'm happy to pay. The only legal tax in the United States is a sales tax or tariff. That's it. Everything else is illegal and unlawful and is not law. And I've got all the documentation to prove it. We don't make this shit up. This comes out of their statutes, their codes, their law. I've read all 77 manuals of the IRS. Every time we go up against them, we win. Every time. There's beautiful businesses right here in this town. 2 of them that prove what we do works. They exist. They're the largest business in town, owned by one of the most prominent families. I'm not going to mention his name. I can, because he gave me his phone number. Wants to learn more. He already knows a lot. Because he's got a good attorney, actually. That helps him. When we send things to the Internal Revenue Service, this is fun too, we learn something very valuable. Because we use registered mail, and registered mail is chain of custody evidence and must be signed for every step along the way. It helps us learn sometimes by accident. So we sent some stuff from one person to Ogden, Utah, to the Internal Revenue Service, and we put Attention, Debt Department. And we got a letter back from Bank of America's letterhead because the IRS went bankrupt. And Bank of America is the trustee for the debt department of the IRS. With another man, we took his stuff and we sent it to Ogden, Utah, Attention Credit Department. Well, it was different cases, and one we needed the debt side of the company, and one we needed the credit side of the company. Always debtors and creditors. And you work with them a little differently. So we addressed it, Attention Credit Department. And what's funny is it sat in Ogden, Utah, we were following the tracking number daily, and it sat there for a while, and it kind of wasn't moving. And then all of a sudden, it shows up and is stamped received. This was on August 9th of 2021, just last year, and it's stamped received, J.P. Morgan of Louisville, Kentucky, agent of service for the Internal Revenue Service Credit Department. Because in the bankruptcy, President Trump bankrupted the original United States government, remember, and all its subsidiaries. You know, all of its subsidiaries go right down to your local cities. And what they do is they just fire up again under something different that's really the same. It's like it never happened. It's like the pizza shop I talk about, right? A man owns a pizza shop. Let's say his name is Joe R. Biden. And he owns a pizza shop in town. And he decides he's not making enough. Or maybe he's got other issues. Who knows what his decision is, and it doesn't really matter. But he decides he's going to declare bankruptcy, and he's going to call the Secretary of State's office and say, hey, I'm pulling my business license. I'm not going to be in business anymore. And he does that on a Friday. And he takes the weekend off and to rest and get ready to gets a moving truck and pulls it around back, and he's going to go clean out his pizza shop that he's been leasing for 10 years. And he goes to the front door. He wants to get some air in there. He kicks the door open. He puts a little brick in it. And he leaves the front door open, and he goes in the back room, and he starts packing stuff up. All those ingredients out of the refrigerator, and the cheese and the meat and the pizza dough and all those things that he had in there. And while he's in the back doing that, somebody just walks through the door, walks up to the counter, sees the menu up there, and says, hey, you in the back, I'd like to order a pizza. And he thinks to himself, hey, that's a great way to get rid of some of these ingredients. I'll just use them up, stay open one more day, and I'll just use them up. And then I don't have to throw it all away. And so he makes him a pizza. He fires up the oven, makes him a pizza. And by the time he's done making that one, there's several more people coming in. And he just keeps making pizza all day, just like he did last week. He has no business license, declared bankruptcy, but his sign's still out. This time he just changed it from the United States Corp to the White House Office Inc. and fired up a new corporation. And you can go to Dun & Bradstreet and find that. You can look on Sam's and find that. It's all public information. We don't make this shit up. And Joe R. Biden's the agent of service. And it has almost 64,000 subsidiary corporations underneath it now. Oh, you know, all 50 states, all the 3,144 counties, all the cities that are incorporated in all those counties, all the agencies of government, All those corporations are all under the White House Office Inc., which is under the District of Columbia Inc. And that's the name of your new country. But people will think that's a little weird, so maybe we shouldn't tell them. Let's just put it on Dun & Bradstreet. We'll hide it there. Nobody looks there anyway. If 1 in a million should figure it out, well, we can claim plausible deniability. Oh, wait, yeah, for Mental House, right? And that's what they've been doing, time after time after time. They did it in 1933. They did it in 1945. They did it in 1975. They did it in 1999. They did it in 2007. And they did it again in 2020. And you just ran your business, ran your farm, ran whatever it is that you do during your, and just keep being a good citizen, ignore everything, and take it with a grain of salt, elect your representatives. You've never elected anyone. And you just go about your life thinking, I live in the United States of America. It's one corporation after another corporation after another corporation, and then close one down one day and open up another the next, and walk in with the same employees in the same space and do exactly the same thing. And they change the name, and they've done it many times, from U.S. A. Inc. to United States Inc. to the United States Inc. to the White House Office Inc. And that's what it did. And the best slaves are the ones that believe they were free. And you don't own yourself, and you don't own your children, and you don't own your car, and you don't own your home, but you think you do. Not realizing you signed that warranty deed. But that's okay. They didn't teach you the English language anyway in kindergarten through 12th grade, and you sure as hell didn't have any law classes. It's not your fault. It's not any of our faults. Not blaming anyone for this crap. Our only blame we can take upon ourselves individually is for not paying attention to what they were doing. We were fishing, riding horseback, watching baseball, football, basketball, just like the Romans. Keep them busy with sports, and they won't know how we're stealing from the coffers. And this is exactly what they've been doing to you over and over and over again. And then they put it in congressional record. I love this one. Gosh. This is Proceedings and Debates of the 90th Congress, First Session, Volume 113, Part 12. And no, I didn't print all the pages because it's like 1,000 thick. More than 1,000. In fact, this happens to be pages 15,309 to 16,558. And I didn't even put all those in here. I don't need them all to prove the point I'm trying to make. All I need is a little bit in that whole big 16,000 page document that says the 16th Amendment to the Constitution was never ratified. And neither was the 14th. The 16th Amendment to the Constitution was ratified by 3 states. It required 36. Whoops. A little short. Do you know what the 16th Amendment of the Constitution is? The income tax is not law. You see, when you know little shit like this, that's how easy it is to beat the IRS over and over and over again. You want to put together an affidavit, throw in all those definitions I gave you yesterday, throw in all that law I gave you yesterday, throw in things like this as an amendment, and talk about it in your affidavit, put the truth and the facts upon the record, and the IRS, your phone quits ringing. They stop talking to you. They're rude. They don't even send you the goodbye letter. They just quit bugging you. And I had to read every book our IRS leaders, so-called leaders, have written. And that's all I had to do. And then every congressional record to find this stuff. And go through all the definitions and read the Title 26 of the U.S. Code and read 77 volumes of the IRS Code. That's all I had to do. And when I did all that, I figured out income and wages are two different things. I found out I don't meet the definition of person. I don't meet the definition of individual. I don't meet the definition of a taxpayer. I don't meet the definition of a resident. I don't meet the definition of any of those things. And I find out that the 1040 is signed under the pains and penalties of perjury by voluntary compliance. You just sign up for this shit. And President Trump stands there and tells you stop paying the income tax. He doesn't pay any. You can't get a copy of his tax records because they don't exist.
And the state of New York gave up.
They did.
Yep.
They finally quit. But President Trump did write a really pretty letter on his letterhead as President of the United States, talking about one man, one American state national. Should I read it to you? I'll see if I can do that. I'm not going to tell you his name or his social security number. They're on here. Okay? The United States Department of the Treasury, Internal Revenue Service Forms 2848. The attorney and his declarative representative. And 56 notice of fiduciary agents were sent this letter on December 1st, 2019 via the United States Postal Service certified mail number, and it includes the mail number. Okay? And that's in the letter. I find that cool. Since I teach, put the label up there on the top of your document. That helps make it a court of record. Then put the label on the envelope that you send it in. Send it by registered mail. Certified if it's not that important. But if it's a court case, put it registered. If it's somebody that's head of state, head of government in some way, send it registered because it's that important. Bond it, insure it. And then go record it so that it's a court of record. Your documents become a court of record when they're properly served, publicly published, bonded, and filed. Make your documents courts of record. If you don't, if you just put the court name up there and yourself and the state and a motion to whatever, it's their document. They can do whatever they want with it. It's theirs. You're just the creator. You just wrote it for them. You're not the creator. They are. Their name's at the top of the page. See, you got to make your documents courts of record. It's that important. Then you start winning like crazy. It's funny how it works. Nobody taught us that. We had to figure that out over a long period of baptism by fire. I'm not kidding. publicly published, properly served. It goes, if you want me to put them in order, I'm just telling you the things out of order, but your documents become a court of record when you create them. If you want me to list everything, when you create them, when you properly serve the opposing party, whoever's bringing the case or whatever, whoever you want noticed, properly served, publicly published, that's recording it into the public record, bonded and filed. A bond is just insuring your document for something. That's why I like registered mails with the United States Post Office. You can insure it for up to $50,000. If I send a regular 8.5 by 11 envelope without a lot of weight in it, $167. I insure for $50,000 for $167, and I look at it as a business opportunity. Because for every 20 I send, one gets screwed up, they lose it, a judge ignores it, whatever, and then they owe me $50,000. So I spent $3,300 roughly, and I make 50 grand. So it's a business opportunity. I'll invest that kind of money any day, see, to make those kind of returns. To whomever United States business entity this may concern, who commercially operates on the United States public markets and accepts and or exchanges in United States currency while providing goods and or services to United States customers or consumers in everyday commerce, the above mentioned U.S. federal public person operating in his commercial capacity, that's our vessels, guys. It's in his all caps name, hyphen vessel, actually. It's kind of cool. I've been teaching that for years, and you don't see it on letters written from the president very often. Never, but this one. It says, where did I lose my place? In everyday commerce, the above mentioned U.S. federal public person has a prepaid, non-obligatory commercial debt obligation arrangement with the United States because he had claimed his trust. In relation to Title 12, United States Code, Section 95A, might want to write that down, 95A, regulation of transactions in foreign exchange of gold and silver, property transfers, vested interests, endorsements, and penalties, Part 2, and other public policy on U.S. debt. Your business entity is a federally bound to the United States because you registered it. Okay, registration again, those words are important. Your business entity is federally bound to the United States and to the U.S. public debt obligations. What did I say? Debt notes are obligations of the United States, all right? You're okay, I keep losing my place. It's hard to read anyway. It's been copied and copied and copied and copied. Debt obligations arrangement with the United States in relation to 12 U.S.C. Section 95A, regulation of transactions in foreign exchange of gold and silver, property transfers, vested interests, enforcement, and penalties of Part 2 and other public policy on U.S. debt. Your business entity is federally based to the United States, federally bound to the United States and U.S. public debt obligations by way of your Internal Revenue Service employer identification number. So your business was registered and got an EIN and opened a bank account, right? and is bound by that IRS number, the IRS being under the U.S. Department of the Treasury and your Federal Reserve Business Bank account. Your business is hereby ordered to itemize whatever and however many commercial products and or services in which the above U.S. federal public person wishes to commercially acquire. Adjust the bottom line total cost amount to 0 and release the items to him. Provide a receipt to the above U.S. federal person by way of its duly authorized representative. And he put their all caps name, and then the lower caps name is the representative. Sui juris / de jure / in propria persona, and retain the record of the transaction to settle with your federal tax obligations with the Internal Revenue Service, as the entire overall transaction is only a commercial accounting matter. In direct relation to the borrowed gold and the National Banking Emergency Act of 1933, all commercial public debt obligations while transacting all business within the United States commercial markets belong to the United States, as the United States is the trust obligator in each and every U.S. commercial transaction with someone who's secured their trust. Isn't that beautiful? Any willful, dishonoring, and or non-settlement of United States commercial public debt obligation matters by any duly based or duly bound commercial business entity within the United States will result in federal prosecution to the fullest extent possible. Sincerely, Donald J. Trump. Right here. I got some great court cases in here too on bills of equity and how to go into court in equity. You guys are going to learn that in the future. That's a little bit more advanced class. Okay, I got asked this question this morning already. How do you know if you got the right passport once you've tried? Did the receiver actually receive and do what you told them to do and what paperwork you gave them? Did they do what they were supposed to do? Did you get the right passport? Well, I'm going to tell you in several different ways. First of all, it's the AOR to the Secretary of State repudiating your citizenship and declaring your status as a state national that changes it in the computer, but they have up to 180 days. Your passport's attached to a barcode that on the bottom of it, page 2, you'll see where they can swipe it. If they did it wrong, the State Department changes it in the computer systems. There's several. There's LexisNexis, there's NCIC, there's the Department of Homeland Security's E-Verify system. There's different computer systems, databases, that they have to change it in. Can you imagine that? 1 million new state nationals every month. And they got to change it in 3 databases? I'm hoping they got headaches right now. It's cool. Especially when we talk to the Postmaster General in Washington, D.C., and he says we got to put shipping containers in the parking lot and hire armed guards, and the State Department has to pick up the AORs because they're all registered mail and they all have to be secured, and they're picking it up in Ryder trucks daily. We're piling up paper so tall and so high and so big in the corner of some building somewhere that they don't know what the hell to do with it. 35 pages a piece times $1 million a month, or $1.5 million a month now. What a beautiful sight. That's the point. That's what changes things. It's that show of force that we all have together. And that's why it's important to do that document. That document, done that way, is what's going to change the country. So if you sit back and say, well, I'm just really can't mail it because I'm hoping they'll do it for us automatically so I don't have to. Nothing happens automatically. It's your documents, it's you doing it, it's you standing, it's you talking, it's you going to your city council and your county commissioners meetings and you talking to the police. I don't care if you got to speed up 20 miles an hour. It's you getting the MCOs. What happens if 1 million Texians get their MCOs and quit registering their vehicles in Texas? That's 1 out of every 20 cars on the road is a state national. You think the police will start to know what to do? That's how we teach them, that there's more than just one status out there. And if there wasn't more than one status, why would they have Title VIII? Why would they have Title VIII, Section 1101 if there wasn't more than one? That's the title and section, that's the definitions of statuses. And you can be a U.S. citizen or a U.S. national. You can be a state citizen, you can be a state national. There's more than one status that you can be. It's your choice to choose what you want. For me, I'm going to choose the one with limited diplomatic immunity. And that's a state national.
Hi, David.
What are you doing?
Guess what time it is? I hear everybody's tummy growling. Do you know it's
Oh, is it that time already?
It's 1:25. Can you
Oh,
believe it?
no.
This whole morning is just evaporated. It's gone so fast. Oh, it is. Right. Oh, thank you. It's 12:30. Never mind. You have a whole another
Oh,
hour.
good. Get out of here.
No.
Run.
Wait,
Run fast.
I think it's time for me to start teaching.
No, almost.
Look at all of them.
Lunchtime. You can have everything after lunch.
They all want to know how
I got to
to
have till lunch.
how to
I'll
sue.
start talking faster. I can talk really fast. If
they
you want me
wanna-
to, I can just rattle it off the top of my head really
Do it,
quick.
do it, do it,
I can
do it.
start talking super fast.
Stop it. They want to know how to sue the unsuables, how to
I know.
redress their
All right.
grievances.
You want to know that more than what I'm going to tell you? Okay.
They need it all. So here's something to consider.
The practice of law cannot be licensed by a state or a state. Schwar versus Board of Examiners. The practice of law is an occupation of common right. Sims versus Ahearns. A promissory note is a negotiable instrument constructed in strict accordance with the Uniform Commercial Code. Debt is discharged upon tender of a promissory note, whether accepted or rejected by the payee. A payment tendered and refused is paid in full, meaning discharged. Nobody has an obligation to pay in Federal Reserve promissory notes. The bank uses the
Slower,
newly created
slower. This
checkbook
is
money
good
to
stuff.
fund the
Go
bank loan
slower.
check that it give. What?
Go slower. This is good stuff. Go slower. This is a power discharge and debt.
See how she changed her
Go
mind?
slower. They need to know this. They've been bugging me for this stuff. Go slower.
That's a
Come on.
female thing. They just,
Go slower. This is really good stuff. Very important. Power discharge. By the way, you know where I got that criminal? That criminal charges dismissed 2 weeks ago. And I used a remedy of discharging felony charges and got the case completely dissolved.
yeah. You sent him a silver quarter.
There's
We know.
another young
I get it.
man who is now free, who is
Well, all
in
charges are
confinement
just an invoice, right?
because the debts
Doesn't
were
matter if they're a
discharged
felony.
by his father. So now we have 2 wins of
We need to
discharging.
discharge the invoice. We just pay for it in real
criminal
money.
charges.
And they can't
You-
tell us what
Never
species.
mind. I'll tell y'all.
And
when
real
I'm
money
teaching.
pays and discharges debt. So
Can I join in?
David,
we have so much fun doing this.
the son of the man who also used my process. He got his son out of confinement who'd been sitting there 4 months. His son is now free. We just got the news today.
Awesome.
By using the process of discharging debt, got the felony stuff gone. And he's free right now. So it's very exciting. I'm going to share that when I teach.
Oh, I love doing this. It's not quite the same as fishing, but I love all of you very much.
The fish are bigger at this game.
Well, Jesus Christ did tell me I've got to start being the fisher of men.
Yep.
So, okay, a couple little quick things on land patents. People have been asking me again. It brought up some stuff last night, and it brought up some stuff this morning before we started, so I dug out some more stuff. In case of ejectment, where the question is, who has the legal title, the patent of the government is unassailable. That's Sanford versus Sanford. It's kind of like Sanford and Sons, right? No. Okay. The transfer of legal title, the patent, to public domain gives the transferee the right to possess and enjoy the land transferred with no obligations. Gibson versus Chateau. I don't know, it's French. It's one of those. A patent for land is the highest evidence of title and is conclusive as against the government and all claiming under junior patents or titles. United States versus Stone. The presumption being that the patent is valid and passes the legal title. The presumption being that the patent, is valid. That's what the presumption of law is. The presumption that it's valid. The patent is valid. It is legal title. And it is superior title. Minter versus Crommelin. Estoppel has been sustained as against all municipal corporations of the county when a property is held in land patent. Beadle versus Miser. A court of law will not uphold or enforce an equitable title to land as a defense to an action of ejectment. What's that say? A court of law, not a court at law. You're going to the wrong courts. When Congress has prescribed the conditions upon which portions of the public domain may be alienated to convey or transfer, and has provided that upon the fulfillment of the conditions of the United States shall issue a patent to the purchaser, then such land is not taxable by any state or federal government. Sargent versus Herrick and Stevens, and Northern Pacific Railroad Company versus Trail County. I don't know which state Trail County is in, but oh well, somewhere along the Pacific, Northern Pacific Railway. The patent alone passes land from the United States to the grantee. Don't hit that button. Stop. The patent alone passes land from the United States to the grantee, and nothing passes a perfect title to public lands but a patent. Did you hear what that said? Okay. That's Wilcox versus Jackson. Patents and other evidences of title from the United States government are not controlled by a state recording laws and shall be effective as against subsequent purchasers only from the time of their record in the county. Lomax versus Pickering. In federal courts, the patent is held to be the foundation of title at law. Fern versus Holmes. It's a foundation. What's a foundation? What everything else stands upon. Okay.
The chiefest of it.
Build your house upon a rock, upon a firm foundation. What does that mean in the Bible? It's telling you about property rights. Congress and only Congress has the sole power to declare the dignity of effective titles emanating from the United States and the whole legislation of the government in reference to any public land, and to declare the patent to be the superior and conclusive evidence of the legal title until it issues the fee, until the man issues a fee to the government, which by the patent passes to the grantee, and he is entitled to enforce the possession. Bagnell versus Broderick. Bagnell versus Broderick. I almost need them. It's a little print. Yeah, it's like 8 point. A patent certificate or patent issued to confirmation made to an original grantee or his legal representatives of the grantee or any of his assigns by contract forever, as well as by law. Hogan versus Pace. In federal courts, the rule that ejectment cannot be maintained on a mere equitable title is strictly enforced, so that ejection cannot be maintained on a mere entry made on a patent. Langdon versus Sherwood. Carter versus Ruddy. That's 2 cases. I'm not going to read it all. On and on and on. Here's how land patents work. 1 through 6. The land is originally acquired within the United States of America by treaty. How was the Republic of Texas acquired? With a treaty with Mexico. The whole thing. A treaty can never be changed unless we rewrite a new treaty with Mexico. It can never be changed. It's supreme law. That's why Texas owns half of New Mexico and part of Colorado all the way up into Wyoming and part of Oklahoma and part of Kansas, part of Nebraska. Is all Texas. Your land patent secures the rights of the treaty upon which the land was originally acquired within the territories of the United States from the treaty to the individual person named on the patent and his successors and or assigns forever. What's the legal definition of the word forever? Until the end of the earth. Isn't that beautiful? The patent specifically grants the described lands to the party named on the patent and to their heirs and assigns forever. Again, the party named on the patent then passes the inheritance, grants, or assigns the patented lands to someone else, which assignee is now named on the patent by the assignment. The documents that demonstrate such an assignment are often called deeds. Grant deeds. What does that mean? You should sign that certified patent. Sign your name right on it when you go to record it, along with the other grant deeds and your acceptance of the grant deed, so that you're the grantee to your successors and or assigns forever. Because the grantor cannot compel you to accept the assignment, it is necessary for you to take some action to signify your acceptance of the assignment. of the patent. C, declaration of land patent, sample enclosed. Once you have accepted the proper assignment of the land patent and you bring it forward by your authoritative declaration, you are named on the physical land patent where it says, and to his heirs, and assigns forever. It doesn't matter how many times the land is reassigned. The patent, by its own creation of government, lasts forever. This is why I tell you, every piece of property in America has an underlying land patent already there. All you got to do is accept it as the grantee, create your new grant deed, and accept the last grant deed, putting yourself in the chain of title. And everything that was a warranty deed was fraud because it was a abstract. Look up the word abstract of title, and an abstract is a fallacy. And all the abstracts fall away. They just fall away. It doesn't matter how many times the land is reassigned, the patent by its own creation of government lasts forever and belongs to the named party and to his heirs, successors, and assigns forever. The most important use of your land patent. In America today, the most important reason to bring up your land patent in your name is to make yourself an elector. This is important, guys. I don't disclose this very often because I usually wait until class 3 or 4 to teach you about electoral status, about being an elector. Stop being a voter and voting for your masters, and start being an elector and elect your representatives. Well, it's the same thing, but it's not. One is far superior, and as an elector, your vote counts as 4. So what happens if there's 50 million state nationals in the United States out of 335, and the 50 million times 4 is 200 million votes versus 280 million votes? Isn't that beautiful? I like you, Arnold. In America today, the most important reason to bring up your land patent in your name is to make yourself an elector. An elector is a land-owning free man. It's the definition of an elector. A land-owning free man. So what's that mean? You got to change your status. You got to own land, and you got to hold that land as the king. And the king deserves 4 votes. You see what I mean? This is beautiful stuff here. It took me a year in Oregon to convince the Secretary of State of the United States by showing her law after law after law. I made I don't know how many, 10 trips to Salem over the mountains, even in the winter. In the winter in Oregon over those mountains was pretty fun. And lots of letters, lots of phone calls. And a year later, I had my electoral status, and I had this beautiful little letter from the Secretary of State of the state of Oregon that David Straight was an elector. And all I had to do is take that letter with me to the voting booth. And my vote counted for 4. And the day I freaking moved, I opened a P.O. box in Texas, and the very first piece of mail I got in that P.O. box was a postcard from the state of Oregon, and it says, "It appears you have left the state, and you have lost your electoral status. If we are incorrect, please notify us that were incorrect. I opened a P.O. box on the United States Postal Service website with my local post office. And Oregon knew about it that fast. And it was the first piece of mail I got. And I still got it on my desk in my office. I keep it. Took me a year to get. I lost it like that because I moved to Texas. She's worth more than you think. That was quite a sacrifice. Now I got to go through the whole process all over again, and I don't have a lot of time. And I don't know how Secretary of State of Texas thinks about this. So it's going to take a lot of work for some of us. And if more of us do it all at the same time, oh, let's just hit them. And then it'll make it easier than one person in the first 150 years who have walked into a Secretary of State's office and said, I want to be an elector. See, I was it. I was the guinea pig in Oregon. Nobody had done it in 150 years. But I got it. And I learned that what I was reading about was true because I did it. And now we got to go do it in Texas. And it'll be so much easier on me if you guys help. Yeah. Only electors can vote for state senators, governors, and presidents of the United States of America. Did you hear what I just said? Only electors can vote for senators, governors, and presidents of the United States of America. And this is why I tell you that ever since you've been a U.S. citizen, your vote matters not. That's just what they put on the news. That's what they put on the news. They just put these votes up on the news. Somebody wins, somebody loses. That's what they say. And they don't go by those votes at all. I've had senators tell me they don't go by those votes at all. I said, why do you go out there and campaign? Why do you spend money? Because people need to believe that they have a say in it. And that's what I'm told. The people need to believe they have a say in it. It ain't the way it works. How many electors are in the United States? No. There's about 40,000. 40,000 people vote for the governor, the elector, and the president, the governors, the senators, and the presidents. That's it. Sorry, I hate being the one. I really do. It actually hurts to be the one to tell you that. I usually don't tell anyone this until you are very well established as a state national. What's that? You have to. I'll tell you a goal of mine, and I haven't done it yet. I don't know why I haven't done it. I just really haven't had time. It's my fault. My goal is to buy some property here in Texas. And for anyone that wants to be a proud Texian national, I'll sell them 1 square foot. And I'll just divide it up, whatever I paid for it. If I buy 5 acres and it costs me $400,000, I'll figure out how many square feet that is, divide it up and charge you, plus a little. And I'll be very reasonable. And people can have 1 square foot because I believe that much that we cannot be a king until we own our own dirt. I believe that. I believe it makes a significant difference on who acquires their trust too. because I've seen people who are renters not get their trust. There hasn't been that many people who have tried that I personally know, but I've seen a couple renters not get their trust, but I've seen landlords get it easily because they've already put their home and land patent. Did you have something to show me? Yeah. Square feet? Okay, thank you. It's 43,000 per acre. I could have figured that out in my head, but thank you. When the government vacates its responsibility to dispensation of the land by not maintaining elected presidents and governors, the elector's responsibility to re-elect those officials becomes absolutely critical. Due to the nature of land ownership in America, such elections can only be caused by the electors. If we don't reseat our state and national governments, we will lose our nation to IMF and the New World Order. If we do reseat our governments, we will have a chance to save our nation and our Constitution. This happens to be, and of course this was written several years ago, a governor's election year. If you elect a natural state governor this year, they can reseat their national senators, and those senators will reseat the president. The entire world is watching us, and most of the world wants liberty. I wrote that last piece. Ron Gibson published it in his book. I wrote it clear back in 2009. Okay. All right. A statute is not law. Forney versus First National Bank of Shreveport. A code is not law. R.E. Self versus Ray. In point of fact in law, a concurrent or joint resolution of the legislature is not law. Koenig versus Flynn, Ward versus State, State ex rel versus Todd versus Yell. A statute in Black's Law 4th edition definition is the written will of the legislature solemnly expressed according to the forms prescribed in the Constitution. It's pretty clear. U.S. Supreme Court decision. The common law is the real law, the supreme law of the land. The code, rules, regulations, policies, and statutes are not the law. Self versus Ray. Here's another U.S. Supreme Court decision for you. All codes, rules, and regulations are for government authorities only, not human creators in accordance with God's laws. All codes, rules, and regulations are unconstitutional and lacking in due process. That's Rodriguez versus Ray Donovan of the U.S. Department of Labor. Okay, that's a pretty important Supreme Court case. It's a 1985 case. It's not that old. I'm not going to read all of these, but I'll throw out a few. The IMF, the International Monetary Fund, is an agency of the United Nations. Black's Law Dictionary, 6th edition, page 816. Until 2020, the United States has not had a treasury since 1921. It has been part of the International Monetary Fund. The U.S. Treasury was under the IMF, and you could find that in Presidential Documents, Volume 24, Number 4, page 113, and you can also find it codified in 22 U.S.C. 285-2887. The United States of America does not have any employees because there is no longer a United States. after over 200 years of bankruptcy, is finally over, and you can find that in Executive Order 12803. The FCC, CIA, FBI, NASA, and all the other alphabet agencies were never part of the U.S. government, even though the U.S. government held stock in these agencies. You can find that in U.S. versus Strange. You can also find it in Lewis versus U.S. Social Security numbers were issued by the United Nations through the International Monetary Fund through the Department of Treasury. The application for a Social Security number is the SS5 form. The SS5 and not the Social Security Administration, the SS5 forms do not state who publishes them, while the old form used to state the Department of the Treasury. You can find that in 20 CFR, Chapter 111, Subpart B, under 422.103B. In FRC versus GE, in Keller versus P, you can find that there has not been any judges in America since 1789. I've told you over and over again, there are no Article 3 courts in a state, any one of them. Name one, pick one, there's no Article 3 courts in them.
Except for the Republic of Texas.
Now, yes. And that's true. I'm talking about the ones you have. State of. I should have said it that way. In any state of. And I would have been correct. New York City is defined in federal regulations as the United Nations. Rudy Giuliani stated on C-SPAN that New York City is the capital of the world. The IRS is not a U.S. government agency. It is an agency of the International Monetary Fund. You can find that in Diversified Metal Products versus the IRS. You can find it in USDCDI under Public Law 94-564. You can find it in Senate Report 94-1148 on page 5967. You can find it in the Reorganization Plan number 26, and you can also find it in Public Law 102-391. It's enough places to find that little tidbit, huh? Social Security is not an insurance, nor is it a contract, nor is there a trust fund. What it is a bad investment. It is. At 25 years old, starting your working career, between 25 and age 65, if you would have put $25 a month away in any of the average mutual funds in the United States, you would have 10 times more money to retire on than the hundreds you put in to Social Security. 25 to 100 a month. You put in 1/4 of the amount into a good mutual fund, you'll have 10 times the amount at retirement. Social Security has always been the worst investment ever. And they don't even put it in a trust fund. They put it into the general account. Worst investment in the world. Slaves can't own property. Read carefully the deed to the property you think is yours. You are listed as a tenant, and you can find that in Senate Document 43 of the 73rd Congress, first session. The King of England financially backed both sides of the American Revolutionary War. You can find that in the Treaty of Versailles, July 16th of 1782, and you can find it in the Treaty of Peace, 8 Stat 80. You cannot, as a U.S. citizen, use the United States Constitution to defend yourself because you are not a party to it. The Malheur trials in Oregon, we learned that. Judge Brown said, do not, she told every one of them, do not bring that Constitution in this courtroom. You're not a party to it. She told them that. And it wasn't until Shauna Cox became an American state national that they were allowed to talk about the Constitution in that courtroom. And as soon as she did, they dismissed the case, and every one of them who did not have an attorney and take a plea deal was set free. She freed them all. And then the Bundy trials in Nevada, the judge told them the exact same thing. Different judge in a different federal court in the 9th District of the District of Columbia, located in Las Vegas, Nevada, told them the exact same thing. The U.S. Marshals used to confiscate Ryan Bundy's Constitution out of his pocket when he walked through the door. They wouldn't let him take it into the courtroom. And it wasn't until Shauna Cox and Shauna did all the filing in the county that Ryan was born, and I wrote the documents to file, and they filed them and recorded them in the county he was born, and we submitted them into the case. And then from that very next hearing, he was allowed to take the Constitution into the courtroom. He was afraid. He called me from prison. I said, Ryan, you stand proud. You take that Constitution of yours, you take some toilet paper, you wad it up, you put it in that pocket, and you make it stick up high. And I said, walk into the courtroom and you watch. I said, I will tell you right now, they will not take it from you. And he said, they've taken it every time in both trials. And I said, Ryan, they're not going to take it this time. And that Tuesday in that hearing, he walked into the courtroom and they didn't take it from him. And the whole time with all those people and all those attorneys that were on trial and Ryan sitting clear at the end, day after day, hearing after hearing, he sat there and he was never allowed to speak. And this particular Tuesday, they had a Bureau of Land Management employee that had worked for BLM for 22 years up on the stand, and everybody's attorney was questioning him all day long. And it got all done, and it was 4 o'clock, and usually they quit at 4 o'clock. And the last attorney, right before Ryan, the last attorney of a person sitting next to Ryan, says, we rest, Your Honor, for the day. We're done. And that judge looked over at Ryan and smiled and said, Ryan, would you like to question the witness? He about fell out of his damn chair. He hadn't been allowed to talk. And I told him, you were going to be allowed to talk. And he didn't believe me. But he stood up and he walked over and he questioned that federal witness, and he got his Constitution out. And the very first thing he says, how long have you been a federal employee? And the guy says, I've been a Bureau of Land Management employee for 22 years. And Brian says, did you take an oath to the Constitution? And he says, well, yes, I did, 22 years ago. And Ryan gets all cocky like I told him not to. And he says, well, have you read it? I told him not to do that. He did it anyway. And the guy says, well, I can honestly say under testimony that I have not. 22-year agent with the Bureau of Land Management had never read the Constitution that he took an oath to. How do you take an oath to something unless you've read it first? How can you do that? It just pisses me off. And so Ryan went through the entire Constitution with him. In the courtroom, it went till after 6 p.m. That's unheard of. And he asked him at the end of each section, did you understand what I just read? And there was twice where he said, no, not really. So he said, Ryan goes, well, let's go through it then. I'll explain it to you. Ryan studied that thing. More than 2 years he was on trial between those two cases. He studied it for 2 years. That's what he had to read in prison. You think he didn't know it? He had to be sent new copies because he'd wear them all out. He read it over and over and over again. There's no man that knows that Constitution better than Ryan Bundy, I don't think. His brother Ammon sure doesn't know it as well. And he's running for governor of Idaho right now. Ryan ran for governor of Nevada when he got done, when his case was dismissed and all charges were dropped. Because as soon as Ryan got done and rested for the day, the judge dismissed the court for the day and said, come back on Thursday. Tuesday and Thursday hearings. That was a big trial, big case, nationwide publicity. And on Thursday, they all walk in, they all sit down, they all get sworn in, the whole all rise crap, everything. And then Anna J. Brown stood up and dismissed everybody, and everybody went home, and the case was over, except for the ones who had attorneys, and the attorney had scared them into signing a plea deal. And those guys went to jail, or whatever the sentence was, the plea deals they took, which all included jail, and some of them are still there. Because they had an attorney. Because they signed their name away. You ever go to prison, if you ever do something they throw you in prison for, you don't even have to do anything, and they can throw you in prison. Yep, yeah, I could walk in the door and one of them loves me and one of them hates me. It doesn't matter. It's like this idiot that gave the newspaper some bad information, some misinformation, some lies. Those are lies. I know, I have the connections, I have the security clearances, I can look it up myself. I don't need them to look it up. Friends of mine are Department of Homeland Security. I ain't listed as no damn terrorist. I fly right through security at every airport, and I fly twice a week somewhere. Nobody's arrested me. I've never been in prison. I've never been tried for a crime in my life. Have I been to court? Heck yeah. Proud of it. Many times. See, that's not what matters. We're not criminals, guys. Never have been, never will be. Unless they back us into a corner and stifle freedom so much where we all see no way out. Because I'll guarantee our founding fathers would have been armed and firing a long time ago. But we're going to keep being nice. We're going to keep operating within the law. We're going to keep suing them and holding them accountable, and we'll keep winning, and we'll take their houses if we have to. We don't want to. It isn't about the money. Believe me, I have lawsuits right now. I could go win millions of dollars on. I could probably do 3 lawsuits a year and make 10 million. Think I'm doing this stuff for the money? I sure don't make 10 million doing this crap. I could sit in my office and write 3 lawsuits and go make $10 million. I actually have one sitting on my desk. I'm not charging him a damn thing for it. And it's 3 cases for one person. And he's going to make more than 10 million off these. If I charged him 1/3 like an attorney would, I'd make 3 million off that, and I'm doing it for free. Because it's a case that makes a difference, not just for him, but for hundreds of you guys, thousands probably. We're suing the hospitals, the AMA. And he was a doctor. He ran a hospital. He was the head doctor that ran a hospital. And he was smart enough to refuse a shot. Now he's living in a nice little beach home in Florida, and he's about 35 years old. He's smart as a whip. He's written quite a few books. He's doing all kinds of things, but he's not a doctor. They pulled his licenses from New Mexico to Colorado to Texas to Arizona. He had licenses in lots of states. Was making lots of money, running hospitals. He's invented some things that are pretty cool that the AMA uses. Smart man. Now he's running his own business on the side, and he's not a doctor anymore. He is. He graduated. He earned it. But somebody said, if you don't follow what we want you to do, we'll put someone else in your position. And then they did. And then they went after him. And they pulled all his licenses away over not getting a shot. So pissed. Britain is owned by the Vatican, or it was. It's not anymore. Forget about the Vatican now. Just forget about it. Don't even worry. Really doesn't exist. Catholics, sorry about your luck. Keep believing in God. Keep practicing what you believe. Do that. But the Vatican? They stopped being the vicar of Christ and they chose to be a vicar of Satan. And the heirs of King Solomon that own all the riches of the world and hold it in trust for you, every man, woman, and child on this planet, 8 billion people they hold the assets in trust for. They told the Vatican no more. Pull your assets back to the Vatican Bank. Get them out of the world. And you got until the end of the month. And they couldn't do it fast enough. You think they aren't wealthy as heck? They are. They got tons of money. Tons. But they lost $160+ trillion at the end of September. IRS publication 6209. This is one of those little tidbits. A 1040 form is for tribute paid to Great Britain. What? What did I just say? This came out of their own publication. The 1040 form is for a tribute paid to Great Britain. You think $1 you've ever paid in income tax has gone to the United States government? You're kidding yourself. You're kidding yourself. Stop funding the cabal. That's what President Trump said. He leaned over in his speech and he said, stop funding the cabal. What did he tell you? Stop paying the income tax. That's what he told you. The Constitution is to be interpreted according to common law rule, Schick versus U.S. A statute will not be construed so as to override a principle of the established common law unless it is made plain by the act that such a change in the established law is intended to, which means we, the people, have to vote for congressmen. Congressmen have to properly, through proper due process, pass a law that changes it. And that's never happened. Starkey Construction Inc. versus Elcon Inc. Now there's a builder I like. A statute should be construed in harmony with the common law unless there is a clear legislative intent to abrogate the common law. United Bank versus Mason Nelson Company. The Constitution is to be construed with respect to the law existing at the time of its adoption and as securing to the individual citizens the rights inherited by him and not with reference to new guarantees. Maddox versus U.S. The United States Constitution must be interpreted in the light of common law, the principles and history of which were familiarly known to the framers of the Constitution. The language of the Constitution could not be understood without reference to common law at the time. Somebody asked me about dictionary. Where do you look stuff up? Well, I'm going to tell you it's in relationship to what? What time period? If I want to know the words of every word in those 4 founding documents written in the 1700s, I can't get close to that speaker. Written in the 1700s, I'm going to turn to Noah Webster. Noah Webster's 1828 dictionary. You can still buy it on Amazon. Doesn't matter. Not that I'm an Amazon fan. I'm not. Don't like them at all. Kick them to the curb if you can. Noah Webster's 1828 dictionary. Noah and his father, Daniel Webster, was the unsung heroes of our founding fathers. They just weren't very famous because none of them became presidents and stuff. Okay. But when our founding fathers in Continental Congress wrote stuff down, which is also in the Federalist and Anti-Federalist papers, you got to read both sides of the argument, okay? And in Continental Congress, when things were decided and they wrote stuff down like those documents, they handed Daniel and Noah the rough draft and said, make these documents timeless, make them perfect. And it was Daniel Webster that wrote the final drafts of those documents, even though others are credited for it. He was the editor-in-chief, right? Thank you. He was the editor-in-chief. And Noah wrote, Daniel had died, the father. Noah, his son, wrote the first dictionary, their first dictionary, Webster's, in 1828. Noah Webster's 1828 dictionary. After that time period, after 1830s or so, start using Black's Law Fourth or Bouvier's. As you progress through time, you're going to change from 4th to 5th. 6th edition of Black's Law is the Centennial Edition. It's always read the preface. It's the debtor and creditor edition. So what time frame is that important? from about 1915, when after the Federal Reserve was created, all the way up to about 1975. That's a perfect edition to use. Sixth, Black Law 6, the Debitor and Creditor Edition, for things that were written during that time frame. And then lawyers always want to redefine crap, which first in time, first in law is more important. See, my gun permit was issued December 15, 1791. It says shall not be infringed. And it's first in time, first in law. Anything they do after that, well, it's null and void. But they don't tell you that crap. They want you to believe that they just redefined the definition of a firearm. It used to be defined as a shotgun under 18 inches and this and that, a couple little things, and those were the only things that were considered firearms. Oh, wait, you guys have been buying firearms for a long time from these gun dealers that are under the ATF, right? I walk into every goddamn gun dealer and tell them, how come you don't believe in the Second Amendment? And their eyes get about that big. What do you mean? I got a Second Amendment t-shirt on. There's a Second Amendment sign over there. There's a Second Amendment sign over there that says we. I said, well, yeah, but even the name of your business says such and such firearms. I go, I own a lot of arms, but I don't own any firearms. So you don't even know the English language. And because you don't know the English language, you don't know your status, you don't know who you are, you don't know what the government is. You're just a slave class citizen selling firearms under the ATF. Well, I'm a free man with lots of arms. And I like to spend a lot of money, and you're losing my business. Because I'm going to go buy from somebody who knows what the Second Amendment is and who supports it. Because we don't own firearms. And they can't just willy-nilly over time redefine something because, well, they want to make shit up. It's all SMU. Who gave them that authority? Nobody. Puerto Rico? ATF came out of Puerto Rico. The IRS came out of the ATF. What? You didn't know that? What? See, if you don't know the history and you don't know the origins of something, how the hell do you believe in it and believe that it's law? Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms was a registered corporation of Puerto Rico. Well, I don't know about you, but I don't think it's one of the 50 states yet. And that was how long ago? Late 1800s. Rob, how you doing this morning? How was the honeymoon, by the way? Just thought I'd ask. Love you guys. I know. Were you? I saw that. Good call, brother.
That movie was The Professor and Mel Gibson movie.
Oh.
How they changed the English language. It's The Professor and the Madman.
Watch that movie. Mel Gibson movie, The Professor and the Madman. It's all about how they changed the English language. See, I can't even talk. I'm a far boy from a mill town in Oregon. Yeah, the
Professor and the Madman.
Professor and the Madman. The phrase common law is used in contradistinction to admiralty and maritime must be getting lunchtime. Jurisprudence. Okay.
Yes, it is. It's 120.
All right. The high courts have further decreed that the want of jurisdiction makes all acts of judges, magistrates, U.S. marshals, sheriffs, local police, all void and not just voidable. That's one of the most important court cases in our history that you don't know about. Why didn't they teach us that a long time ago? It pretty much solves everything. One court case. The high courts have further decreed that the want of jurisdiction makes all acts of judges, magistrates, U.S. marshals, sheriffs, local police, all void and not just voidable. Nestor versus Hershey. See, I got to tear everything down to build it back up right. It's a tough job. You got to do it. A void judgment is one which has no legal force or effect, invalidity of which may be asserted by any person whose rights are affected at any time and at any place directly or collaterally. Reynolds versus Volunteer State Life Insurance Company. That's a Texas case. A voidable judgment is one apparently valid, but in truth wanting in some material respect. That is the city of Lufkin versus McVicker. The common law is not birding omnipresence in the sky, but the articulate voice of a sovereign that can be identified. Very sneaky little words there. A sovereign that can be identified. This is why it's important for us to send the Secretary of State your affidavit of repudiation. The word repudiation is what I'm going to end with. That is such an important word. It's so important President Trump used it twice in his Declaration of Independence that was signed by 56 signatories and sent to every governor and every member of Congress and the Senate. He signed it July 4th of 2020. Repudiation. To repudiate something. To be so repugnant, so odious in behavior that it cannot be morally, righteously obeyed. And when our government does things so odious in their behavior, that means it stinks. We must repudiate it. Because we cannot morally and righteously be part of a society that commits such acts. Look at the Tuscany experiment. You start looking at the things that I list out in my affidavit of repudiation, which, by the way, has been going on for a very, very long time since Reagan. Every president has received a copy except Biden. I haven't. Well, he's received millions of them, but not from me. I haven't bothered to send him one yet. I'm going to sit down and change mine a little bit and add some shit. And they're going to hear about it again. See, that's what it means. That's why it's really important to repudiate your citizenship, that you morally and righteously cannot be a member of a society that performs such atrocities. How do you like your water being poisoned? Your skies, your farmland. How do you like your food being tainted? What was that stuff you bought, Neil? All those beautiful little sample cakes, all in a little thing. turn it over and look at the ingredients, and it says, what did it say? Well, besides the poison, it said poison about 3 times, but it said
Was it genetically modified?
human,
No, it didn't say that. It's
non,
a bioengineered food.
yes, a bioengineered food products added. Bioengineered food products added. Look that up, guys. I want you to look it up. A lot of it's human flesh and blood, and you're eating it. And those were just cakes, desserts. I can't buy anything in a grocery store anymore without reading the label. Nothing. I'm down to like 2 different types of shampoos that I'll even use. 2 different types of toothpaste. I had a doctor friend of mine tell me that the most poisonous aisle in a supermarket is the toothpaste aisle. And people put that shit in their mouth. Are you kidding me? Yeah. And CVS Pharmacy is the most poison place you can walk into. One of. You walk in any of those doors, they're just killing you. Why do you put up with that crap? How much money did the federal government spend in the 1960s, 70s, and 80s advertising on television? Spots on television nationwide are not cheap, are they? How much do they spend on telling you to trust your doctor? More than $100 billion, according to the Department of Fiscal Services, was in television ads teaching you to trust your doctor. And the doctor works how many hours? How many hours a day does an average doctor work? More than 8, I can tell you that, unless he's got one of those cushy jobs. Most of them work 12, 16 hours a day. Do you think they have time to keep up on all the new medical procedures and new pharmaceuticals? Do you know what a pharmaceutical CEO who is an American State National told me now? Runs one of the largest pharmaceutical companies in Boston. You know what she told me? She says, we have been hiring pharmaceutical reps for more than 50 years who are single. And we hire good-looking young females who want to marry doctors and good-looking young males who want to marry female doctors. And we hire the exact amount of gay male and females who want to marry gay male and female doctors. And we give them hundreds of free samples in a tri-page that we write. And we send them into doctor's office, and that young, very little trained, pretty female goes into a male doctor's office, gives him 100 samples and a trifle and says, this drug right here, it works great for this, 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 and this. And he goes, okay. And he starts handing samples to his patients and writes script and hands them a piece of paper, and this is what you need, go to the pharmacy. And nobody bothers, not one of those doctors, because I've checked. None of them go to the pharmacy and get the thing that comes out of the box of that medication and starts to read it. Because if you did, he wouldn't have prescribed any of it. The very definition of pharmaceuticals is poison. Very definition. And you put that shit in your body. because of $100 billion in advertising that says trust your doctor. Are you kidding me? You want to get healthy? You want to start looking 10 years younger? Let me tell you how. When you think about going to the hospital, slap yourself. Really hard. Instead of calling for a doctor's appointment, make sure your phone doesn't work that day. Stop it. And if you ever think of walking in a CVS pharmacy for anything more than a Q-tip, quit. Okay? Just don't. Just say no. If you cut yourself, you can sew it up in the field. I did that one. A friend of mine did this one. I stuck a horse knife, trimming their feet, and it went underneath this fingernail, and it cut it back at a 45-degree angle 10 days before we were supposed to get married, and it was hanging like this. And I can see the bone. You can see the scar. It goes from here all the way around. And I wrapped it in paper towels, stuck it to my pants, hold it, jumped in the truck, dialed Bonnie's phone number, said, "I'm sorry, honey, don't be mad at me." I was up in Oregon. She was in Texas. I said, "Don't be mad at me. I just cut my finger." I finished the horse. I left a puddle. I left a puddle. Fingers bleed a lot, by the way.
Before the wedding.
And I left a puddle, and I got in the car, and I drove to the hospital emergency room, and I got pissed getting to the parking lot because it was full of cones and two little tents. This line up here for shots and vaccines, line up here for the... I said, oh, hell no. I went to the other emergency room in town, and it was the same way. There's 3 in Bend. I went to the next one, clear to the south end of town, said, no way. I said, all right. I don't know if I can sew this one up myself. Oh, wait a minute. I got a friend. I head over to the Army-Navy surplus store. I walk in to see Joe. And I said, Joe, take all these bloody wet paper towels off of it. I go, Joe, can you do something about this? He was a Marine medic, and my finger, as I'm saying it, it went. He looks at it and he goes, hey, that looks pretty clean. I said, it was a horse hoof knife. You think that's clean? It's in that horse shit. He says, all right, I'll put some iodine on it. Throws a little iodine on it. I go, okay. He goes, give me your finger. No, the other one. Okay, hold this up. Here, I got something that'll take care of that. He gets the super glue. He puts it right around there. And I'm holding it. He says, hold it just a little bit longer. And he goes, let go. I go. He looks at it and he goes, good to go. I said, aren't you going to put a Band-Aid on it? Oh, yeah, okay. And he goes, gets the Band-Aid, and we were all done. And then Bonnie shows up and she starts putting frankincense on it and all these wonderful oils, and that thing healed so fast I couldn't believe it. And almost without a scar, you can barely see that little tiny white line now. And Joe didn't do a very good job. It was actually puffing out over here at one point, but by the time Bonnie got done with it, she healed it right up with some essential oils. What do you need doctors for? All right, have a good lunch.